Thomas Bordeleau and Henry Thrun both re-signed. Plus, we get caught up on some of the latest player availability from the San Jose Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Western Conference Tuesdays on the Locked On NHL channel. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, where we cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And today we're going to get caught up on some news as both Henry Thrun and Thomas Bordeleau re-signed. So we'll dig into their contracts, what it kind of means for them going into their next steps. Plus, we also had Henry Thrun's availability. Ty Dellandrea met with the media as well as Alex Wennberg. So I pulled some clips from them and kind of give my reactions to some of the things that they said. So before we get into today's episode, do want to let you know that it is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So we'll go in order with these, as Henry Thrun and Thomas Bordeleau were the last two RFAs that we knew were going to get re-signed. So Henry Thrun signed a 2-year deal on Wednesday, at $1 million AAV. So that'll carry him through the 24-25 season and through the 25-26 season, where he will still be an RFA. After that, and hopefully the hope is kind of set himself up for a bigger contract down the line. So Thrun, who of course the Sharks acquired from the Ducks when he said that he did not want to go to Anaheim, the Sharks acquired him for a third round pick. He will make $1 million over the next next 2 seasons, as well, again, being an RFA going when that is over. So I think this is a very fair deal, to be honest, for both parties, where he gets a little bit of a bump up because he was basically making under $1 million on his ELC. A little bit of a bump up, provides some stability for the next 2 seasons, where it's kind of a nice, like, here, we believe in you. We want you to kind of not have to look over your shoulder type of scenario. And you can, kind of set yourself up to make, kind of make a bigger paycheck here in the next couple seasons. So, some of the things that I didn't clip, but some of the things that he mentioned was, he wants to kind of position himself as a top 4 defenseman in this league. And, I think that's very interesting, especially when you look at the left side of the Sharks in the future, right? With Sam Dickinson, who you're presuming to be a first line defenseman, Shakir Mukhamadullin as a second pairing defenseman, and then Henry Thrun as the third pairing defenseman in there. But that's if everybody works out, and we don't know how long it's going to take for Sam Dickinson to kind of make his mark and stuff. So, I think over the next 2 seasons, it's pretty safe to say that Thrun is going to be kind of, given an opportunity to do that. I think, we talked about, what was it, earlier this week or last week, about kind of who's fighting for positions. And he's definitely one of those guys who's fighting for a job going into this season. So, and that's kind of the mentality that he's kind of taking with it. So we'll dig into Thrun a little bit more when we have some of his availability and kind of what to expect from, what he's been kind of working on this summer and all that fun stuff. So we'll kind of put a pin in Henry Thrun. And then we'll look at Thomas Bordeleau, who was the last of the RFAs for the Sharks. So he signed a 1-year deal at $874,000, which was his qualifying offer. So this is a very big season for Bordeleau, right? Still will be an RFA after this season. So like if the Sharks want to keep him into next year. But, he's, as we kind of talked about earlier as well, where he's a guy who really needs to try to establish himself as an NHL player this year. And he's going to have more and more competition with Will Smith and with Macklin Celebrini, both expected to be on the Sharks roster. William Macklin has established himself as a top six player. And now with all the infusion of players in the bottom six, like Carl Grundstrom, Ty Dellandrea, Klim Kostin, who the Sharks got last season. Of course, picking up Barclay Goodrow, like there's a lot more mouths to feed when it comes to trying to kind of find minutes here. And Bordeleau kind of played on the third line last year. He's going to be a guy who needs to come in and have a monster season or preseason training camp, I think, to really try to earn himself a job. And it's, for Bordeleau, it's always like we've seen the production, especially on the power play, but now is he going to get top power play minutes? Probably not with Celebrini and Smith. And maybe the Sharks will be able to actually put out two power play lines that you're not squinting to try to find talent, especially in the second unit. But, we've seen the production from him. We've seen him be able to score. But can he play, at least attempt to play defense? Can he back check? Can he kind of do all those things that coaches want to see out of him and that keep you in the lineup night in and night out? So I think that's always going to be the big question for Bordeleau is, if you're not scoring, what else can you do, right? Like Bordeleau's not going to be a penalty kill guy. It's just not his style of game. And I think that's kind of where like Eklund has separated himself, right? Is when maybe if Eklund's not scoring, you can still throw him out there on the penalty kill, right? And he's still going to play like a full 200-foot game. He's going to try hard in the defensive zone. And I think you get just more effort out of, I don't want to say effort, but I think you just get a more complete game out of Eklund compared to Bordeleau. And I think this is also kind of the same thing with like Daniel Gushin, with like why he's not maybe making more of an impact, right? We know you can score. We've seen you score. What happens when you're not scoring? Can you keep yourself in the lineup? And I think that's the big question for Thomas Bordeleau. Is can you do that? He's going to be, I think, one of the biggest storylines in this training camp is how does he try to establish himself now with, guys who have much higher pedigree in Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, who are, if it's close, right? If it's pretty close decision between those two, you think the coaching staff is going to give the tiebreaker to a Celebrini or to a Will Smith because those guys just have a higher ceiling, to be frank, right? Than Thomas Bordeleau. So I'm really curious to see. So 1 year qualifying offer. It's going to be really intriguing kind of where Bordeleau kind of shakes out with the Sharks and kind of what his role is for this season and what to kind of expect for him. So because he's gonna have to fight for that final spot. So we'll get into some of the player availabilities. We'll talk about Henry Thrun. He's got two good clips from Henry Thrun. We'll hear from Ty Dellandrea and then Alex Wennberg as well. So some of their availability and kind of my thoughts and reactions to it. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Summertime means baseball, and there's nothing better than going to an MLB game. That's when you need to check out Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. I love about it is, of course, you can see the views from your seat. Nothing worse than getting to a game and realizing, man, my tickets stink. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and they also have job loss protection. So in case the something unexpected happens, they've got you covered. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Before we continue, we hear actually from Henry Thrun. Do want to remind you guys, of course, one, thank you guys for listening to Locked On Sharks. But when you're done with this episode, go check out one of the other great Locked On podcasts. Of course, you have the Locked On Niners, get you guys caught up with training camp. Of course, there's plenty of storylines around the 49ers. You've got Locked On Warriors, Locked On Giants, Locked On A's. Plenty of good stuff here at the Locked On Network. Or go check out one of the other great NHL shows, like, again, the Locked On Sens guys had Brady freaking Kachuk on their podcast. So make sure you guys go check out one of the other great Locked On shows here, wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. So Henry Thrun met with the media for about 20 minutes on Thursday morning via Zoom. All these clips, all the clips I have come via the Sharks, who are kind enough to, of course, to post the media availabilities. Thrun is a very well-spoken young man. If you have not, go back and listen to my podcast. I had him on in December, right around Christmas time, if I recall, right when he got brought back up to San Jose. And he very well articulated. And I love one thing, it's a little thing, but one thing I like when you talk to him and like, you're like, he makes a point to kind of say your name, and it's a little thing, but he like makes a point to kind of say and try to be personal about it, but very well spoken, very, he's very articulate, that Harvard education kind of coming through there. So, but Max Miller, who, of course, covers the Sharks, has been on the show, in front of the show, of course. He asked Henry about kind of what his offseason focus and training was. And I really thought this answer was really kind of intriguing. So we'll get to hear what Henry said here. So.
Yeah, my focus, it's been interesting. You know, it's typically during the summer, you see a lot of skills and a lot of guys, you know, working on some high end stuff. But for me, it's been a little bit more hard nosed, honestly, just thinking about and trying to practice, you know, sort of below the dots, which has been interesting. It's been productive so far. And, you know, this is kind of the first summer that I've really dialed in on something without the puck per se, which obviously most of the game is played without the puck. So for me, hopefully I'll see some strides in that area. You know, obviously working on all the fundamentals as well, you know, the skating, shooting, handling and all that. But for me, both off and on the ice, there's been kind of an emphasis on building some more man strength and kind of being more of a guy that can end plays in the corner and hopefully transport it up the ice a little bit.
So I thought that was really, really intriguing, the way, like, where he's kind of, you know, said like, hey, I need to work on, this is something I need to work on, right? Is what do I do when I don't have the puck, right? And the game is so, I think the training and stuff is so puck oriented, is, you know, how does he handle, how does he skate with the puck, et cetera, et cetera. But for him, you know, after spending he mentioned multiple times, you know, that last year was his first full season, his rookie season in the NHL. And kind of the big thing he took away from it was like, hey, I got to get better off the puck. How do I, you know, kind of use my size? Like, Thrun's a big, you know, a solid guy. Like, he made a joke, you know, as they asked about his weight and stuff, and he's like, it says 190, but I'm a little bit more than that right now. And the Sharks Social kind of made a little joke out of it, but you know, using that size to your advantage, right? It's nice to have big defensemen, but if the big defensemen don't know how to play like a big defenseman, it doesn't, you know, then it doesn't really matter. So I think for him, working on those kind of hard skills of like, okay, how do I use my size? How do I use my leverage? How do I shut plays down? How do I become a better defenseman, especially in the NHL? And yeah, I was really, really glad to hear that from him, of a guy who can self-scout and realize this is maybe, you know, I'm sure he heard it from the coaching staff, but like this is what I need to do to be the best possible player that I can be. So I'm really intrigued with Thrun. And again, he's another one of those storylines is where does he kind of shake out in this training camp and, with the Sharks long term. So the Sharks have invested in him for the next 2 seasons. Can he kind of pay off that investment? So the next clip here, I asked him about his relationship with Ryan Warsofsky and kind of what that looks like, especially now that he's going to be a head coach. So this is what he had to say on that.
Actually thought about, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, obviously the head coach kind of is in a bit of a separate bucket when it comes to just the relationship you have with them. So that's something that, obviously as I mentioned, I feel comfortable with Ryan, but recognize that this year there'll probably be kind of just a different tone to our relationship, which is totally fine and totally the way that I expect it to go. So we'll see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, all the guys that are returning will kind of work through that. So it's something that I'm sure Ryan's thought about it as well, and it's something that we'll kind of just play it as it goes there.
So yeah, that last year, that's your position coach, right? Ryan Warsofsky ran the defenseman. But when you become a head coach, it's a little bit more of a kind of CEO type of role where you have to kind of think about, the good of the team compared to just one, just your group and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a change there. And I think, but again, it's not like Ryan Warsofsky hasn't gone through this before, right? At both his previous stops, he went from being an assistant coach to the head coach of the same team. So he's been through this before. I know he's a young coach with a lot of young players, but I think Ryan Warsofsky's ability to communicate and connect with the players is going to come in huge. And I don't expect that to be a problem. So maybe a little bit of a learning curve with kind of some bumps in the road early. But I think I still think Ryan Warsofsky was the right choice for the Sharks here. So, but yeah, Henry Thrun, if you haven't, go check it out. The Sharks have it on YouTube. It's about 20 minutes long. You'll hear me ask questions at the end. But again, just always come away very impressed with Henry Thrun and the way he kind of handles his business and the way he kind of communicates with the media. So before we take a break here, though, I want to hear from one of the newest Sharks, Ty Dellandrea, and asked him this question. I asked him on, of course, he played last year with Logan Stankoven and Wyatt Johnston, who are 2 kind of emerging superstars. And I asked him kind of what he might learn from them and kind of playing with Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, who are supposed to kind of be 2 potential superstars of their own. So
I think the biggest thing is just, being a good teammate, being a good friend to them. Try to help them in whatever way that I can. I haven't been playing in the league forever, but, even a few years of experience, you learn pretty quick. So with Wyatt, with Stank, you just try to be there for them. If they need anything, make them feel comfortable, I think is a big thing. Make them feel comfortable at home, know that, they can be themselves and let that show on and off the ice. Because it can be intimidating coming in as a guy that young. So I think those are the biggest things I try to do, just to be a welcoming person.
So for Ty Dellandrea, he's going to have to kind of walk that balance of, you got a bunch of young guys who are the future of the Sharks, right? With Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini, but you're also a new guy and you're a young guy as well. And kind of how do you acclimate yourself to a guy who's fighting for a job, right? We mentioned, of course, you got Sturm, Goodrow, Grunstrom, Cunnin, Dellandrea. There's a ton of guys kind of in that bottom 6 role who are all going to be jockeying for position there. And, Dellandrea is gonna, I know the Sharks traded for him, but still he's going to have to kind of fight for that role. And it'd be interesting to see kind of how that balancing act for him of, I'm trying to win a job. I'm trying to get acclimated to a new team. And then we also have these kind of young guys that we're trying to kind of get up to speed. And that's kind of everybody's job, right? Is how do you get these young guys up to speed? And again, there's a lot of this training camp is going to be super fun, just with all the new guys and everybody kind of fighting for jobs and positions here. Like, I feel like the lines, like I made the lines, earlier this week or last week. I feel like you could make like 50 different versions of the lines and be like, oh yeah, I could totally see the Sharks trying to do that. Which I think maybe speaks a little bit more to the added depth. I think that Mike Grier really, really tried to do this offseason is just get some more dudes here who are actually like NHL dudes. So we'll hear from one NHL dude and Alex Wennberg, and kind of his thoughts on one joining a team and kind of playing with these young guys. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and all the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so let's finish up here. So we have Alex Wennberg, who, of course, the Sharks gave a 2-year deal, $10 million, so $5 million a season to kind of be Logan Couture insurance. And then I think also potentially just another guy who you can kind of throw in that middle six, where if you need him to play on the second line, if you need to play on the third line, like whatever, I think that's kind of him. So he was asked on kind of being a mentor. I think it was Shang Peng who asked him on being a mentor and kind of what that role is, and if he's kind of, his thoughts on that. So
I feel like, there's a two-way as well. I feel like for me as well, to be, I wouldn't say an older player right now, I'm still 29, but for me to see those young guys coming in to have such a skill and like their talent. So I feel like you can teach them a few things or so, but I feel like it can be the same the other way around. So that's something I look forward to. And obviously came to Seattle, we started a new organization from scratch, and it was kind of like a similar situation in many ways, that young team coming in. So I just feel like it's a good fit. And I've been in teams where you started from a rebuild and you build on something, and it's something that really excited to be a part of the journey. And that's why I feel like this could be something really good, and why I'm so excited about it as well. So
yeah, that I think we kind of, or at least I did, I forgot about that aspect of him being on the Kraken and going through this whole like process. And but I love the I'm going to teach them some stuff, but I'm probably going to learn some stuff from them as well. And especially when you're dealing with guys like Celebrini and Will Smith, there's a reason why those guys are like uber talented and expected to be potential like superstars in the NHL. And of course, being around those, and I know they're going to learn like work habits and stuff like that from Wennberg. And Wennberg is a professional, and he's been in this league for a long time, and he's done a lot of good stuff in this league. But I still think, like he said, like he's that teaching old dog new tricks kind of feel with him of like, I just being around these guys, I'm going to learn stuff from them. They're going to learn stuff from me. And I think it's going to be a really good relationship. And I think Wennberg is coming into this with a really good attitude of kind of being that mentor type of mentality. So, I will actually hear, you can listen to more. So kind of, I think it was Curtis Pashelka asked about, that going through a new team and how you kind of go start the season with that, and kind of what's the process of, all these new guys coming together and trying to become a team quickly.
I wouldn't say everything's going to click from the get-go, but at the end of the day, I feel like when we got in and all the new faces and all that, sometimes it could be good as well. Obviously you started from scratch, but I feel like from coming in for camp preseason, you start right away to kind of like get on the right track. And we're going to see how it goes, but I have full faith in this team, and I feel like we're building on something good. And at the end of the day, it comes down to a lot of mindset as well. And you can tell from all the guys I talk to, coaches, organization, it seems like, everyone is having the right mindset and ready for it.
So, and that like all these new guys here to kind of help out and kind of wash away what happened over the past year to 2 years, right? Of just like, I mean, we know, right? Last year's team was one of the worst teams that we will probably watch in our lifetime. Realistically, like, the team stunk. How now all these new guys in to kind of help these young guys and kind of wash away the stink of last year and start to build something. And you keep hearing that from everybody I've talked to, or everybody you hear from is like, we're here to build something. We're here to build something and try to turn this thing around and get rid of, and put this thing in the right direction and help these young kids. So yeah, I think Wennberg probably overpaid a little bit, but the money doesn't matter, right? $5 million this year for a team that was way under the salary cap floor. I think Wennberg, though, he's going to do a lot of good stuff to, again, teach these young guys how to be professional, help to change the culture around here. And especially, you don't want that like stink of losing to just infiltrate the building and then it never gets out, right? You don't want to be the next Sabres, right? You don't want to be the next, pick your team that just, they never can quite figure it out. And I think, yes, what the Sharks did last year was the right choice to put yourself in the best possible position to draft a player like Macklin Celebrini. They did it, but now they have to start building. I think that's what my career, this whole offseason has been about, is we have the foundation of players, but now we got to make sure we can actually pour the foundation and put these guys in a position to succeed. That way we can build this thing up the right way. So, yeah, I'm really excited about, again, I mean, Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith and Eklund and all the guys coming, but I think there's just going to be a level of competency from the Sharks that we haven't seen in a couple seasons. And there's still going to be, a bad team, right? And they're probably going to be one of the 3 worst teams in the NHL this year and be drafting very high again next year. But I just don't think we're going to see the 10-2 type of situations or the 7-1 games or I don't think we're going to see this frequently. And that's the hope, is that this team is just more competitive, kind of like the Blackhawks were last year, right? Blackhawks were still a bad team last year, but they were just night in, night out. They just fought more and they were just a harder team to play against. And they were also a very talent poor team. And especially when Bedard was gone, but that team still played hard night in and night out. And, yes, they lost their fair share of games, but I think that's the step for the Sharks, is can you go from below the bar? Can you just kind of raise the bar here a little bit and just, make teams work a little bit more? So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back next week. I think we got 3 different guests lined up for next week. So plenty of good stuff here at Locked On Sharks as we're kind of winding down, and at least the full time. August will be going down to 3 episodes a week. And then we'll be back kind of right when training camp starts to the full 5 schedule. So like I said, plenty of good stuff. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. Until Monday. Bye, friends.